Alright, what else do we got for the omnibus? Phoenix Wright Omnibus. Okay. Okay. Methinks this omnibus manufacturer dabbles in some witchcraft. Why is Phoenix's name on the back of the I'm not even going to begin to try and break that down. I'm not even going to begin to question that down. I'm not going to even begin to try and question that. That is... okay. That's a thing that exists. Hey guys, Zack Mars here, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. So, in the last episode, we beat episode 2 of the first game, The Adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Band. Long story short, we met Herlock Sholmes. He's a bit of a himbo, but he's sort of smart. He does that kind of stuff on purpose, I'm pretty sure. So in any case, yeah, we beat that. And also now we're on the fast track to actually becoming a lawyer, so we're gonna be doing that. And now we've only got 3 of these left. So we're gonna I'm gonna just pop into episode 3, the Runaway Room. And we're gonna see how this actually plays out. So in any case, the Adventure of the Runaway Room, I have no idea what this is gonna be, so let's just get into it. I know it's episode 3, but okay, so there's 7 sections. Alright, that's alright. Let's just start. In any case, let's get started from the beginning. The Adventure of the Runaway Room. I should really make these the title, the thumbnails.
Records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner. My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident, "I believe that perhaps that case was indeed the prelude. The beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together."
Ooh. Alright, so platform number 7. He's getting off in England. Also.
Amazing. Is this really just a railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an enormous building before.
And look at all the steam locomotives. This country is incredible.
Alright, she's kind of happy to be in a new location. I'm seeming to see.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
So this is the capital of Great Britain.
So, where to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
In
All right.
case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure.
Alright.
I suppose you're visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so.
Alright.
Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay.
Alright.
And welcome to the centre of the world, Great Britain's mighty capital, London.
I mean, he's not wrong. England was for the longest time the center of the world. That does actually track. For the longest time they were leading world's colonizers and stuff. And for the longest time they were the biggest country in the world. They owned literally everything. And nowadays not so much, but they're still pretty important. They're still pretty important. I mean, they have a monarchy, so they're still pretty important. In any case, 18th of February, 9:21 a.m. British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. And I love the Chief Justice's office. Are we in Big Ben right now? Because that's what I'm thinking. Or we're inside a giant clock tower. It looks like it. It looks like we're inside a clock tower. It's based on what I'm actually seeing. But it looks cool. I mean, and honestly, how badass do you have to be to have your own room to have your own throne room inside of a clock tower? Just have your own office inside of a clock. How rich or fancy do you have to be for that to happen? In any case, yeah, that's just me rambling. Hi, Suzuto. Yes, it's a very big room, isn't it? What an incredible place! It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. This place is breathtaking. It looks like a fortress. It does! And it's in the inside of a clock tower, so it better look impressive. There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course. But they've only been built in a few short decades since we opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? A far cry from the wood and paper that most of our buildings are constructed from. It's certainly unfamiliar. But I think there's more to the differences than just construction materials. Yeah, we're inside a damn clock! I've gushed about it already, but now Ryunosuke is pointing attention to it, so I have to say it again. We're inside a clock! How cool is that? What is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice's office, Naruhodo-san, in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. This is the Lord Chief Justice. We had instructions to report here at this time if circumstances were different. We were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan. But Kazuma can't. No. So instead, we are here in a different capacity. As envoys to report the news of Kazuma-sama's death. Yes. And having delivered his or her message, an envoy's duty is done. So, we'd have to return to Japan. If we want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Kazuma's place as a law student selected from the study tour. Yes, which means you need the requisite qualifications as a lawyer, which we just spent a whole month studying, so we should be fine. Which is what yeah, exactly my point. Thank you. Here in Great Britain, it is the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. So that's the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It's the only way we'll be able to remain here in London. Yes, and so that our ancestors can go on adventures as well, and also become an ace attorney in their own right. But I mean, that's just me breaking the fourth wall and also telling you messages from the future. You don't know any of this yet, but you will, maybe. Actually, you will never know any of this. You will never actually meet your ancestor. And then I'm just gonna move on. I have no idea what I'm rambling about. I hope I'm up to scratch. Ah, good morning. Sorry for keeping you. Oh, hi. Oh. I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan. It seems I'm 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds late. My apologies. Oh, no, don't mention it. We're never happier that we were standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. So, introductions. I am Mel Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. You look the part. I like it. And I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot. Come on, Mr. Naruhodo, don't be a mouse. Oh, can she read minds? Is she reading my mind now? I mean, that's been a thing. I don't know if that's also been a thing in the other Ace Attorney trilogy that I'm playing, but can the assistants just read minds for whatever reason? Because that's kind of cool. It's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo of the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. Ah, yes. Thank you. Let's talk with him. London! So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How would you like London? Oh, help. I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruto? Thank you, Suzuto. Oh? We had a wonderful view of some of London's streets from the carriage on the way here from the station. Everything is so impressive and grand, I must say. I'm almost lost for words. And I'm actually am a lost for words, so that works out. I'm glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water, and gas, even cables supplying electricity. So, a very, well, modern for today's, for that time period standards. That's kind of archaic now, but at the time, pretty impressive. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded. Oh yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there, Suzuto-san. And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor. Yes. There's much excitement about the upcoming great exhibition we will be hosting here in London. Great exhibition. Cultural and technological achievements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It will be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be. Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world. I get the feeling that the Capcom has a lot of pride for Great Britain, or at the very least, they decided to make this game and it's coming all out in one go. But they feel very prideful of Great Britain. It seems like they're trying to tell us something. Seems like they like British people a lot. Even if you do say so yourself. The sun will never set on our great empire. Perhaps it is fate that these progressive times we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Law student. Lord Chief Justice, I think you were expecting a student of law for this study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. Mr. Kazuma Asagi, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report of the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. That's amazing. The news reached him before we even arrived. My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours. Oh, thank you. And you're honored this appointment specifically to inform me of the news? Yes. We are here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. They tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy, and I see that's true. And it is with some regret that I must inform you that the death of a young lawyer means the study tour arrangement can no longer proceed. If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart. What do you have to say, madam? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruto here would like to make a proposal. What do you know? Well, Mr. Naruto, this is it then. The moment of truth. Continuing the study tour. Time we can get down to brass tacks. The thing is, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing the study tour to go ahead. Don't misunderstand me. Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead. But without a lawyer from your country, there's nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean. Is there something I don't know? Well, I've kind of been studying to become a lawyer. I kind of know myself. Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country. And that was Mr. Asagi. At least, that is what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well at all. I just can't seem to find the right words to say to this man. Mr. Naruto? I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I going to say? If there's someone else here from Japan who could be described as a lawyer, it's me. It's me. I can do it. Is that so? Alright, I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but... No qualifications, you say? And yet you still claim to be a lawyer? I have acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once, as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me. And I was the accused. But glossing over the details. I've been spending every spare moment of the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was on board the SS Bureau. The voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe. Not what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short a period of time. But, I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Asagi's journey has only just begun. Coming here on this study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to do. I know I must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself. But I will do anything to prove that I have what it takes. Any test you care to set to me. Just one chance, that's all I'm asking for. Please! 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruhodo. It was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted. A perfectly judged appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand to you good as good as a lawyer. Oh, thanks. Okay, so the trial has already started? We're already learning all of our lawyer stuff? So, you're willing to put those words to trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. Huh? But let me ask you one thing first, sir. Yes? You say you intend to do everything Mr. Asagi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yes, that's my intention. I see. Am I imagining things? Or did his expression just alter a fraction there for all of a sudden? Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? Alright, what's the test? So, what form will the test take exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an apt trial about to begin later today. Interesting. No advocate has been appointed for the defense as yet, so this would be a welcome news. Today? Straight away? I mean, that's pretty snappy. If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler? How do I get myself into these situations? Well, could I ask, what sort of trial is it, Lord Strongheart? Yes, good question. Ah, I remember. It's a murder trial. Oh, we're good at those. So we'll probably be fine. A murder? An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. That's easy to say. But I should mention, just in case, if the defendant is found guilty, he will, of course, be sentenced to capital punishment. Capital punishment? He'll be put to death? Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably, you read that much in your short C-based introduction to British law. We can't possibly agree to such a test. We will be toying with a man's life. I am the Lord Chief Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? This has just got a lot interesting. There's no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure that you don't lose. Alright, so the defendant may live or die depending on how well I perform in court. If I lose, he'll be hanged. Yes, he will. This is a very life or death situation now. Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to my claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. And you say you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Asagi. I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve. What's the matter? You've fallen silent. I'm sorry, but time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What'll it be? What do I say? Do I agree to this absurd test? Yes! We're doing it! Alright then. If I have to give you a decision now, my answer is... I can't do it. I can't get the words out. 15 seconds. Your decision-making needs work if you want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. Alright, so, it's as I suspected, is it? Sorry? You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to East tomorrow. This conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance. Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but what could I do? It's alright. I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. But resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. Okay. What are you trying to say, madam? I think what Miss Susato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at a trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable. I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, as some kind of experiment. Alright. A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, the particular day they stand in the dock may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice. And that's how the story ends. Wait, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, was there something else? It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. What? At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. He will receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. But that's awful. But that is the truth. Why does it have to be like this? Because, I don't know. Things are weird. It's 19th century. Things are weird, or different. Things are different at this time. Please don't expect an answer to every question. The cold, hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from the very miserable end. And that is you. Alright. I'm really his only hope. So? What do you say now, madam? Me? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. And I agree. But in my estimation, it is purely and simply a matter of resolve. Oh. Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So, venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves. And now we're gonna go investigate, correct? He's gone. Yeah, he's gone. The Old Bailey. If we're going to do this, Mr. Naruhodo, we must leave at once. Alright. What do you have to say? What to do? Miss Susato, can I just ask you something? Careful. From this position, I can perform a Susato takedown in an instant. I know. Mr. Naruhodo, you heard Lord Strongheart. The trial starts imminently. If I need to throw you, I will. You know, you could just say, I think we should hurry to the courtroom. If you need to ask me anything, it had better wait until we're at the Old Bailey. Okay, so she has nothing else to say. Let's just move to the Old Bailey then. Wherever that is. Alright. Okay. 18th of February, 9:45 a.m. The Old Bailey. Just defendant's antechamber. Okay, just defendant's antechamber. There's no numeral after that. Oh, thank goodness, we're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my tubes were going to rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver, and there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Herlock Sholmes stories, and it works so perfectly. I'm not sure why you're so pleased. I thought we were going to die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Yes, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk says the defendant should be here, but there's no sign of him at all. So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait in is grand. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. An oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever is about to be sentenced. It feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. It does feel a little bit like yesterday, considering you could easily play through this in like a day or two. It probably would have been yesterday. You could easily play through all these. They were like 5-10 hours each. Well, actually, no. Yeah, about 10 hours total for both of them, so you could easily beat them in like a day. If you didn't have work or school or anything else to go through, you could easily beat these in a day. So, yeah. Well, the first two at least. So it could be. And long story short, it could feel like only yesterday. That's what I'm saying. And it's very well possible. Yes, whoever the man you're to defend, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment. Top of the morning to you, madam. Sir. Hello. What are you doing following me here? Things are very desperate, aren't they? Sorry? Would you look at those expressionless faces? From the east, are yous? We're from Japan, yes? Ah, Japan, is it? Right, say no more. So, how much do yous need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny in your name, and all while in a strange faraway land. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet, no. But 'tis grand. Let me start by giving yous 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now. 1,000 guineas? Please, Miss Susudo, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 guineas is enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. What? 'Tis nothing to me at all. I'd like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I have enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day? Well, even so, we couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. Ah! That hit me in the eye! Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving it you no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, 'tis a little embarrassing. The trial that's about to begin, you see, is for me good self here. I'll be in the dock. Okay, so you're a defendant. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh, well, the thing is... Don't worry about it, all you have to do is stand up next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. So, it was true. The Lord Chief Justice wasn't just making it all up. I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Indeed it is. Blistering blazes, do yous Do you not know who I am? Me? One of London's biggest names? No, we're foreigners. Of course we don't know who the hell you are. No, sorry. We've only just arrived in the city, you see. I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just next to Hyde Park, there in the center of London, is another beautiful park. Sorry? A park? What? It is called McGilded Park, full of blossom and flowers in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated to the city, so I did. An entire park? In central London? A city of smiles. That's my vision of London. There's nothing Magnus McGilded wouldn't do for the city and its square old people. That's amazing. I mean, really extraordinary. But now they've the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask you? Ha, ha, ha. Alright, don't pass out. Mr. Naruhodo? Perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath. Good idea. Hey. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I after saying, you daft Egypt? I'd give you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This Chancellor of a fella claims to have more money than the Queen. But if that's true, why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? Because he did it. That's the only explanation. Well, not at all. Not at all. Although, it is a little strange, to be honest. Why don't you have a lawyer, I mean? I am interested. That would be the fault of the Reaper. Sorry? Did he just say Reaper? Aye, the Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Barak von Zykes. He's the prosecutor. Okay. Well, we knew this guy was we knew this guy was eventually gonna come in this story. This guy was in all the promotions. I knew this guy was coming. So yeah, he is going to be our prosecutor for this one. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? When Van Zyke stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. That's kind of morbid as hell, but okay. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. What? So it's reached this desperate situation where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all. You can say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Well, goodness. Lord Baron von Zykes. He must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor, then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madam. It's cursed. Cursed? What on earth? This is getting interesting. The defendant is summoned, and his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial is about to begin. His counsel. That would be me. Oh, 'tis time. Well then, fella, don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Did we even have anything in our court record? No. We have an armband. An armband I heard as a defense lawyer throughout the Empire of Japan. That's all we've got. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here, I'd made up me mind, so I had. Sorry? I decided I have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance, a student of law, wouldn't you know? 'Tis no accident, I can assure you of that. 'Tis fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. Who's this? So, I literally know nothing about the case, or about the man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo? The man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something like that Cosmo would never have allowed to happen. Counsel for Defense, what are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you will lose your right to stand. I'll be right there. Okay. It's happening then. My first trial in a British court. I hope you're watching over me, Cosmo. Because I have no idea how I'm going to manage this. And is that the end of the chapter? Oh. No. We're still going. 18th of February, 10 o'clock a.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. I thought that was going to be where it ends. But apparently not. Oh. We got 6 judges, I think. So this is the highest court in Great Britain. The Old Bailey. The centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's so different to the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes me redundant. Makes words redundant. Okay. Whatever the country determining the person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. Oh, we also have his sword. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes. What? Oh, right. That's right. We inherited his sword. Oh, yeah. We're back to nervous Naruhodo again. Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. Oh. Okay. It's legal man Santa Claus. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare the court to be in session. We are here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I must now call upon the counsel for the prosecuting defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared. That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld. Counsel for the defense? You'd appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English? Huh? Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready. And I couldn't be further from ready if I tried. Alright, he looks like Dracula. Those eyes please me. Nipponese. They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. A cold shiver just ran down my spine all the way to the tips of my toes. Alright, Mr. Judge. Now, Mr. McGilded. Yes, my lord? You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner? As I've always said, my lord, 'tis a great thing to give the opportunities to the young. Even if the fellow is a student from some little island off in the Far East. It is not the British way to ignore the dangers in yourself and give those to the less fortunate a fair chance. I'd like to think that acts as chivalry to the great British Empire proud. Listen to Mr. McGilded. What a fine gentleman London has in him. Do you hear that he donated £5,000 to the government the other day? Mother, please may we go and play in McGilded Park? It seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. McGilded. That's definitely welcome news, and he certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him. Alright. So now it's time to actually figure out what the court case is. Eloquently put, Mr. McGilded, and most laudable sentiments. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you that your 6 members of the public have selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? Yes, my lord. If the task is to send runners to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready. At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish properly. Naturally, I agree. Ha! Any criminals here would soon be wishing they never set eyes on me. Alright. I like the designs of all these guys. I feel a chill. Oh, don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. Must finish these mitts before my grandson. Ah, Mr. Naruto, these people are... the jury, yes. That's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right. I've only ever read about it. And also, considering they no longer have a jury in Japan, I'd argue that didn't work out very well. Well, at least in the fictional world of Japan that they created for this game. But here in the Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. The jury passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. So the defendant is ultimately judged from 2 completely different points of view. But how exactly do jurors give their verdict? That I don't know, but I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses. Yes. Prosecutor von Sykes? My lord. It's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounced your fame. I'm known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So, what brings you back? Is there some change in circumstances in which the court should be aware? I'm interested. I leave that to your imagination, my lord. So, the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose the day of holidays to make a comeback? Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruto. I can do this. As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. I'm interested to see what this is gonna look like. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. We must be the only ones in here who are unaware. The incident took place in the late evening, and 3 days passed. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks known as the community as Thrice Fired Mason. Sorry? Thrice? He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service of the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust in the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here's the autopsy report for the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept this and the photograph as evidence. The autopsy report has been entered into the court record. The photograph of the crime scene has been entered into the court record. Now I can do things with these. And on one further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit this as well. And these are... Good lord. Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGilden's gloves have blood on them? This is gonna be a little bit problematic. Yes, I'll accept these as evidence as well. The defendant's leather gloves have been entered in the court record. How did I get into this? Alright, let's investigate all of our evidence first. Thrice fired Mason, male, age 54, occupant, brickmaster, time and cause of death, 15 February 10 to 11 p.m. Stabbed in the abdomen with a knife while journeying on an omnibus, died due to the internal hemorrhaging resulting from the trauma. Okay. Magnifying glass... Doesn't seem like we got anything. Doesn't seem like there's anything else. Let's just examine everything. This is definitely blood, isn't it? Not the most pleasant sight to be confronted with on our first day in London. Well, nothing will come out of grumbling now. No. By the way, is Mr. McGilden right-handed? Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand a little earlier. Ha, pity. If only he had been left-handed. I think blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really. Alright. This is definitely blood. Okay, this is just repeating all of it. By the way, has Mr. Is there any more evidence that we can actually glean from this? Or is that it? Alright, so that seems to be it. Okay, so... Cosmo. It says Cosmo inside. Dolores... Okay, I didn't know... Dolores' name is embroidered on the inside here. Look. Cosmo Asagi. This was his band, of course. He had his heart set on the study door in Great Britain. I'm sure he would have found the truth he longed for here. But he lost his life before he even had the chance to see the place. I had such a strong sense of hopes and dreams when I looked at this armband, though. All right, and that's obviously the defense attorney badge. Okay, I backed in a corner before I even started. Okay, in any case, continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there was only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2. Obviously, one of those passengers was a deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilden. Well, rather damning circumstances to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course, I had no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilden? To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening. But whenever I'm in the carriage, I take it with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? 'Tis the motion of the carriage, my lord. Lilton, so it is. And when I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me. The body of a man I never laid eyes on before in me life. Now I ask yous, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fellow bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got onto gloves then, after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning. What? That's not all of it? There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. That's interesting. Order! 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 Okay, he has a funny way of saying order. When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage. And there were witnesses to the crime. It is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we'll hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses at once. Okay, so multiple witnesses that we're going to have to... Ooh. Okay. Witnesses, your names and occupations. Okay, so once again we have to grill everybody at once. My name is, well, everyone calls me Beppo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city. My name's First. Lady First. I make hats for gents. Not very well, it seems. Yours is like snapped in half and sewn back together. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witnessed the aforementioned incidents. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir, that's right, sir. Alright, then let's hear what you all have to say. Very well, then, let's proceed with your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. Witness testimony. Also, the witness card looks very swanky. What the witnesses saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then, out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife into his guts. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too. Alright. Unambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men were witness the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes. I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel? Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? As it has been clearly stated from the outset, yes. Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage. They were in the carriage. How quaint. I had read that civilization in the eastern island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses? Huh? Tell me, my Nepalese friend. Have you ever traveled in an omnibus? No. I have not. Well, no. Well, we only arrived in London this morning. No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves. The actual sense of the scene of the crime, that is. What do you mean? The actual scene? How? A carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much. Yes. The omnibus in which the bloody crime took place is here today in this very building. Here? What? The entire carriage? I'm a little confused as well. Bailiff? Bring forth the stricken omnibus. Oh, that's a big omnibus. That's a big carriage. So that's an omnibus. The omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. Okay, so someone could have easily fit inside. 4 passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. At each lovely Londoner knows that the best view of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus. And I should point out that to our foreign guests, that there is a skylight in the roof, allowing a view of the interior of the seats above. Okay, so it could have been very easily seen unless you were sitting in the front seat. Ah, skylight. Oh. The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats of the omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. That makes perfect sense. Well, counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced a crime scene itself brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. Okay. That is the prosecution's wish. Okay. I guess that works. Very well. I see no reason why not. The omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. The omnibus has been entered into the court record. Now we can possibly examine it. I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence? Alright, let's investigate this. So now we have a visual model of the actual... I can't find anything out of place. Can we open the door? Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? The scene of a murder. It's horrible. Okay, so let's find some evidence in here first before we actually... Alright. Oh, well, there's a blood stain. That's blood that's soaked into the seat. The victim's obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the deck. Would you really stab someone in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark. And there was a lamp on in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Well, there's a poster. Ooh, hello. What is this? This seat has a handle, it seems. Oh, that's a trunk full of stuff. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Feeding tubs, tools to repair wheels, blanket horseshoeing tools. So it's a storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things, it seems. There doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to stow their luggage, that's for sure. Well, I don't imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyway. Okay. Okay. Okay, so what else can we examine? This seat looks reasonably soft, but it's actually rather hard when you sit on it. And only just wide enough for two gentlemen to sit side by side, really. Of course, English gentleman woman would be dressed in such finery. It would be quite impossible for her to climb up to the roof deck, so she would have to be seated in here. A woman in a kimono would have the same problem. Women's clothes are very impractical, aren't they? That's a little uncomfortable. The seat has a handle. Okay, so let's open this. Let's examine this. Ah, that's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition. Ah, the Crystal Tower. It's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. Alright, let's keep examining this. Ah, that's a poster for the great exposition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exposition. Oh, this Crystal Tower. It's under construction. Okay. Okay. It's quite a large skylight, isn't it? Yes, quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. And there doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description. So I suppose it can't be open from the inside of the cabin, at least. And what is this? Have you seen enough? Let's step back outside then. Alright. And that just closes behind me. You can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witness would have been able to see quite clearly. That's not good for us. Alright, so they would have been able to sit from the seat. So this is the roof deck on the omnibus. Oh, you must have a wonderful view of London streets from up here. So people sit all the way up here on bitter winter nights with cold air rushing past them? And they had to pay money to do so? Brr, I can't imagine how cold it must feel. Yeah, that just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in freezing cold as punishment? Perhaps that is the real price you pay to stay out late. Okay. So what else we got? So this is the roof deck of the omnibus. Oh, you must have a wonderful view of London streets from up here. So people sit all the way up here on bitter winter nights with the... Okay. Alright, and then... Alright, what else do we got for the omnibus? Phoenix Wright Omnibus! Okay! Okay! Methinks this omnibus manufacturer dabbles in some witchcraft. Why is Phoenix's name on the back of the I'm not even going to begin to try and break that down. I'm not even going to begin to question that down. I'm not going to even begin to try and question that. That is... Okay. That's a thing that exists. Is there anything else inside? I can't imagine there's much else that we can examine here. I think that's everything we've got. Alright, well. That's all we got. I can't believe it, the insert. Okay. In any case, yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. Let's just continue onward with the story. If I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Let's continue with proceedings, then. Your cross-examination counsel? Pray don't expect this Napanese stray to understand the intricacies of a British cross-examination rights. Alright, my first cross-examination in a British court. I'm imagining it's going to work exactly the same. Focus, Ryunosuke. Focus. Alright, time to cross-examine and figure out what other evidence we can figure out. Cross-examination. What they witnesses saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well.
Hold it!
Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh, yes, sir. That's right, sir. Even Sokoda was, for freezing, in fact. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, though, of course. Nobody seems to be... And there were no other passengers when the incident took place? No one alighted, for example? You're quite right about that, sir. No other passengers like that. No, none. So nobody fled the scene of the crime, then. I have to say, the boss insists on it running, so he does every time. That's the last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, with what were they selling things so cold and everything, and only making me 20 pence on the run, you see? Yes, I spend that much as a pub on the way home just now, just trying to warm up again. Alright, the victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Alright. And you saw them through the skylight in the roof of the carriage. That's right. When you sit up on the roof deck, the window's right there at your feet. Okay, so you could have easily seen inside. There was a lamp on inside, so I had a pretty good view. The two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that I was Mr. McGilden. How can you be sure? Well, how can I put it politely? Mr. Gilden has a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Let's not forget what was when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilden. There is no room for doubt here. I really wish there was. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged the knife right into his guts.
Hold it!
Alright. You actually saw that exact moment that happened? Didn't I already testify to that? And he's got a stick. Or a fair dinkum hardworking city banker's not considered trustworthy these days. Oh, no. I didn't mean that. This is no good. I've really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's... My lord? Juror number 3? What's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. Uh-oh. There's no point in wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. Right. That is precisely what I was about to say. Well, okay. As the foreman of the jury, it's my duty to set a good example as my fellow jurors. What the? What is happening here? They're going for a guilty verdict is what's happening. Let me see. Ah, yes, it seems that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. And the 6 members of the jury made up their minds about the case. One by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous skills fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before. Very well. The court acknowledges the change in the jury's stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. This is a nightmare. Alright. Alright, that's right, he stabbed him. I screamed I did, so couldn't help it. He stabbed him, you say? And you were sitting up the roof deck, weren't you? Yes, that's right. I was up on the roof seats. Alright. There's nobody to pursue at the moment. So I'm just gonna keep going. I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. I've been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly, that huge great knife. A huge grim sight indeed. That didn't help me at all. The jury looks like they're even more convinced my client did than they were before. That appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGilda is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First? Oh, yes? Yes, sir? Is this the knife that you saw? Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. It's the very one, sir. Is that? Yes, counsel? This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. That's a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is. And furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. Please, no. M, for Magnus, perhaps? Or McGilden, possibly? Take your pick. It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake. Oh. But there are M's everywhere. Like, yes. Like in Mason. This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon as murderers openly certainly belongs to the accused. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel. The murder weapon has been entered into the court record. My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption. Juror number 2? Go on. Mr. McGilden is a pillar of society and a gentleman. And a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However... Oh. Those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Wait, what are you about to do? Dispose of the rubbish. Oh, I hate this. No. I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in position to draw the only logical conclusion. These guys are too biased. Not again. That's 4 out of 6 jury members who proposed a guilty verdict. There's only 2 left. We've had it. Every time I press up these witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark. I suppose we'll just have to keep pressing in the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We must give up hope that we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But... Alright, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witnesses' statements again. Alright, as soon as I heard the scream... Alright, so when it happened, the only 2 people in the closed cabin were the victim and the defendant. And, so help me, 3 whole people witnessed the man I'm trying to defend to do the deed. I don't like to be pessimistic, but we do seem to be in a rather difficult situation here. What am I supposed to think here? Is Mr. McGilden really innocent? Or could it be? But before we jump to conclusions, first check should be to gather information. We didn't understand the case maybe better than we do at the moment. Yes, you're absolutely right. Let's listen to those witnesses' statements again. And a little more carefully this time. Alright, present? I'm gonna actually examine this. Since obviously it has a W, it has an M on it, but an M could also stand for W. If we turn it like this? Yeah, it could also be a W. An ornate letter M, undeniably Mr. Magnus McGilden's initial. And it's beautifully gilded too. It must be very valuable, I should think. Ah, what is it? Look at this M. If you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. This could change everything. A W? Yes, this is one of those, you know, turnabout cases. I'm sure of it. I'm afraid I don't know at all, but what I am sure of is that it's an M. Oh, well, that idea was quickly quashed. That part is the sheath, isn't it? Are you alright, Mr. Naruto? Oh, sorry, yes. I just don't really like the blade. Oh. Those don't seem like the words of a man with a large katana slung from his waist. That's not a blade, that's Kazuma's soul. Anyway, there's no sense in delaying it. Let's see what the blade looks like. Ooh. Well, okay. That looks like a lot of blood. It surely is blood. The victim's... an Englishwoman's blood looks a lot like a Japanese man's blood. Did you think it wouldn't? Sorry, it's just that we've only just arrived here in Great Britain. I'm finding it a little hard to adjust. Yes, I do understand. There's gotta be something else. Okay, well, what else can we do? They can certainly see the inside of the carriage. Wait, this folds in. Yes, and there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witness would have been able to quite clearly. Okay. Hold on. Okay, I'm trying to gather information to see if I can actually get myself out of this. There's no hinges I can see on this, so okay, that's my theory busted. Alright, let's press this guy.
Hold it!
Alright. What exactly did you see? Oh, well, that would be a passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was. And by passenger, obviously, you are referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. And then the other passenger had the knife in his hand, like this. By the other passenger, obviously, you were referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilden. And then he plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly. What? Ugh, I hate this. My lord, I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5? Do I take it that you too? As the master of the London Guild of Coachmen? The idea of a murder being committed on one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, so I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse is bolted, as they say. No, please, just keep an open mind a little. Get up now, Silverblaze. The fight is just in sight. Oh, this sucks. Beppo was a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir. This is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. Alright. Madam Juror number 6. Yes, dear? What can I do for you? You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand. Oh yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know. Then, pray tell, why are you yet pronounced your verlaning? Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day, and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he did. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He has always done wonderful things for our city. That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the McGilded Public Library later and borrow some more books? How many Londoners live in their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know what kind of a man Magnus McGilded really is? What kind of a man is he? The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one of the very darkest of souls. What? Stone of the Crows! Mr. McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is a vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that. The victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name save considerable financial liability. It would come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment date for his debts. Good gracious! The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it. Oh. Hi. If I might add something briefly. Miss Susato? You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded. But where's the evidence to support your claim? And he's just pouring himself a glass of wine while discussing court politics and law. Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hollowed chalice in a court of law. Aha! There it is! Lord Van Syke's hollowed chalice. How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. Ah. As judicial assistant in defense, I'm simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Well, can you submit it to evidence, please? I might present this ledger as evidence. Okay, now we can go through the ledger and actually prove that he couldn't have done it. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. A marvelous toast, counsel. I will gladly accept this new evidence. The debtor's ledger has been entered into the court record. I am not comfortable with this. We are losing, and we're about to lose our final verdict. A catalog of people who have borrowed money from the defendant at a high rate of interest. It includes the victim who owed 20 guineas. Ah, yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum. Let's investigate that and make sure we have all the evidence there. This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? We have to. Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. I assure you we will not find Mr. Sholmes' name inside. Well, let's see what we find. Ooh. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness! What is it? Look at this. Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at the very moment. Oh yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could very well be useful information. The details of the debtor's ledger have been updated in the court record. Alright, among the defendants listed the debtor is Bruce Fairplay, who would have been due to repay his loan imminently. Gosh, it's crammed full of... Okay. Alright, so that's all we got. Alright, so... Okay. And the accused man quite clearly had ample of recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Regrettably, madam, there's the modus operandi of the accused. And in such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still... Maybe it's all for the best. Ah, wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more before... I don't stand for nonsense. Now that trial was rigged. That was it. The last juror's decision. Ah, according to this encyclopedia of British law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. The final verdict? It's over then? Oh. Okay, but she's got something. There's a footnote, though. A footnote? However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. This feels rigged. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the law of this country, I will now conclude the trial. By delivering my final verdict, I trust there are no objections. Miss Susato, just tell me the one thing. Oh, yes? You were in the middle of saying something before. The footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law. However, the defense... What did it say next? Oh, yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defense is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. Summation? Examination?
Objection!
As summation examination? From which century has this tome there been resurrected? Ah. Judging from the binding, I would say that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. So, you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Miss Susato? The so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment, and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understood what it entails? Typical Nuppanese. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what, exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decision. And it says here that... if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions. Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use the summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really, so it has rather fell out of use. I wonder why. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age. Still, we can do that, though. I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that, although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't extinct. Good point. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? I think we should try it. Summation examination. Our last possible option. Do we assert the right to carry it out? Or admit defeat? We just found a lead, so absolutely. The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
But if it's alright, it's alright. I believe it could prove vital in this trial. The defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination. This is madness. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Well, I'm not, there was no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so... all members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify your decision and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot. This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before, but it exists now, so you have to. I don't really hold with all of this just a fun lark. That seems to have thrown the jurors off. It seems none of them experienced this before. Alright then. The summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for. To turn the trial around. Okay, let's see how this works. So be it then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds which you find the defendant, Mr. Magnus McGilded, guilty of this most serious crime. Alright, so this is... I'm assuming this is similar to cross-examination. So... the juror's contentions. There was no one else inside the carriage at that time, so it had to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers, with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I have simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusion. We can trust the guild. Fair fares are Zarmara. We haven't raised prices in above 4 pence for years. The scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor. It beggars belief. I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they? Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I'll have to throw everything I can at them, and use some very persuasive language. Just a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh? I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. Then what on earth am I supposed to do? We can figure this out. Oh dear, I'm just citing what I've read about in British law, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any ideas on how to make this work, then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the juror's own words to make your argument. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appeal to present a united front, but the truth is, they are completely strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom altogether. And that's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes, exactly. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. I think we can do that. If we can, then we can contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see, so it's contradictions is what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination. Oh, yes, I suppose you're right. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Alright, find contradictions in their statements, and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. Like dominoes. Alright, I may be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I have to pull this off. Alright, time to figure this out. Can we start proceedings, Consul? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord. Okay. Well? Jury examination. The defense's rebuttal. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it had to have been him. That's fair. Actually, can we press them on their statements?
Hold it!
Certainly, those testimonies we have heard suggest the victim and Mr. Gilder were alongside the carriage. Precisely my point. But, could there be some other explanation? Something we haven't considered yet? Such as? Well, we don't have an argument yet, so, haha, well, perhaps that's something we could, all work out together now. Now listen here, maybe you don't know how things work around here because you're from foreign climes, but we're here to form our opinion as individuals, and I have. Oh dear, he doesn't appear to be in the mood to consider an alternative point of view, does he? No, I'm going to have to pit the jurors against one another, like Suzuto-san said. Finding contradictions in these 6 people's assertions is the only way I'm going to succeed. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence.
Hold it!
But does his ability to recall his takings that night really tell us how trustworthy the man is? I manage all his lordship's cash affairs, so I'm very particular when it comes to accounts. I see. A single penny can mean a difference between life and death, after all, can't it? That's a saying in your country? My point is, a man who minds his figures is a man you can trust. Those of us in service would swear to that, sir. Does that bench really need any more polishing? So if it's a good driver says that he saw Mr. McGilden in the act, I don't doubt him. But the only task left for today is disposing of the rubbish. Now wait a minute. One of the other jurors mentioned something about money, I think. Now would be a good time to listen carefully to the juror's statement again, Mr. Naruhodo. If you notice an inconsistency in what 2 defendant jurors are saying, I should expose it by pitting them against each other. Yes, let's see if I can do that, just that. He stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen.
Hold it!
That's how much it costs to take the omnibus? That's right. As the guildmaster, I decided to set a policy for all drivers across the city. 1 fare, no matter which bus you're taking, how far you're going. We have to compete with the rise of the motor car, you see? Us coachmen have to make a stand together. Motor cars, you say? Yes, and this murder is one of the buses extremely damaging to our cause. It's beyond the pale. It leads to a decline in passengers, you mark my words, and it's all that rascal's fault. He has to pay. Is this the crime of his buses he's more worried about? Alright, let's pit them against each other, though. Anyway, remember the team is reliable and trustworthy. So if the driver says he saw him do it, that fellow in the dock is guilty of sin. Hmm. Let's... Let's try doing that. Alright. So those two statements clearly contradict one another. They do? Explain yourself, Counsel. Me? Oh dear, what have I just said? I swear, Silverblaze's main name, I haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus that night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right. I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That is it. A fair and convenient single price. Just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man? Why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication... Ah. It would be 16 pence. Exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. But 4 pence is, in fact... By 4 pence, in fact, or precisely one person's fare. One person's fare? So who else was in the truck? Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible there was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Good gracious. This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. Watchword, or whatever it is. The figures your coachman claimed to most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy. I beg your pardon? Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news would surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he let nefarious characters ride on his omnibus? Yeah. Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end, Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire onto the innocent side of the status scales. Now hold your horses there, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo. Okay. That changes the side of the scales. Alrighty. This is all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir. I'm going to do the same. Well, now things are starting to look up. That's good. For the love of Mike, not you as well. A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from their witnesses again. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo, you did it. If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. 2 more. Actually, there is something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. That's what you must strike next. So I need to pit 2 more jurors against each other and show there's another contradiction in their assertions. Exactly. You can do it. Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. Alright, I'm curious if this will actually end it, and then I can move on. I usually like you to run with slipshod barcade bars to save from... Okay. Let's press this. We don't know what this guy is doing. Careful, you could have hurt somebody with that. Just, you're a fine one to talk. What of that sword hanging from your waist, No, that's just my battered soul. Well, anyway, I despise anyone with too much money. They're all the same. After stabbing some brickmaker or other behind the scenes, you mark my words. That seems very unlikely, doesn't it? Are you mad, man? We know that small shorty is a rotten Shylock. Well, yes, that does seem to be the case, but... Mr. Naruhodo, please, be careful what you say. If he's been trying to squeeze money out of us less fortunate, then as far as I'm concerned, he's as guilty as sin. The man can hang. Come to think of it, didn't one of the other jurors have something to say about the defendant's underhand activities? If you thought of something, Mr. Horo, don't let go. Test your theory. Pit the two jurors whose statements seem to be contradictory against each other. No time like the present for us to use pit against each other. I'll never get anywhere. Alright. I've simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusion. Alright. What have you been doing all this time? What have you been doing all this time? There. I should have thought it was obvious. I am recording everything that takes place as part of these proceedings. And what have you learned from that? For example, at this moment in time, the judge has used his gavel 11 times in total. The prosecution has snorted derisively at your remarks 7 times in total. And, I might add, each time you have gulped like a simpleton. Thank you. And what's the point exactly? So anyway, madam, are you able to explain why you think the defendant is guilty? That is a conclusion I have drawn as a result of the copious notes I have typed. Clearly, but I'm asking you to explain why you've drawn that conclusion. Please don't distract me. It makes it extremely hard to concentrate on my note-keeping. This is going nowhere. Alright. Grr, Beppo, this trial has to continue so I can get to the bottom of that corruption. Not guilty, I say. Scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor. It beggars belief. I really think you should stop waving that needle around. You heard what the good coachman said before, didn't you? That hideous man stabbed the poor fellow. Just like this. Yes, that is what he said. You're right. McGilded Park is such a lovely little place, too. I've always enjoyed resting my legs there while I get on my laminating. And I had thought of anyone who donated such a delightful place must be a fine fellow indeed. I suppose I was wrong. Whoever would have thought this was a miserable, murdering moneylender was not a scrap of remorse. Oh, help. She's as sure as she can be that he's guilty now. The old lady certainly seems to know her mind, doesn't she? So, we just need to find two jurors with contradictory statements and pit them against each other. Which is so much easier said than done. Is that perhaps what you were just thinking? How did you know? Well, I took the liberty of doing some research in case you happen to find yourself in just this situation. Shall I read you what I found out? It's a little long, I'm afraid. Sure, please go ahead. I could use any information. Very well, listen to this. Oh. Okay, this is an explanation of how the game works. In this situation, the counsel for defense should use pit with impunity. Having done so, you will be able to compare okay. Select the corresponding button to listen to the other jurors' assertions again. Note that you cannot choose the assertion of the jury you initially selected. Nor can you choose the assertion of the jurors who have changed their leanings to not guilty already. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I see. She wasn't joking when she said it was long. Okay. The first step is to listen very carefully what each individual juror has to say. Let's figure this out. Then we'll start to see which ones might not quite agree with one another. Alright then. Let's get this right now, so I never have to listen to that long and boring explanation again. That's the spirit. Alright. I don't have anything that can... he stuck the chap just like him like this. Brazen, I say. Absolutely brazen. Well? Okay, this isn't what I need. Well, it said this guy, so... Pit? Okay, so they have contradictory ideas of how he actually got murdered, so I think I'm gonna pit those. The two statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel, post haste. Oh, dearie me. I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3. What? Can't you see I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Want to test me, do you? It was like this. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, just like the grim banker said. Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so. Now don't move. Take a look at these 2 jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? Bless my stitches. What a muddle. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh. But why? Why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends in this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dear me. I can't abide people telling lies. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. The scales. I don't believe it. He did it. Wait. Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him, his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Huh? But me? What exactly is the problem? What of it the 2 witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say the Shylock did stab the victim as he sat next to him in the omnibus, and this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again, and this old lady saw him do it. Well, what did you say it didn't happen like that, Who are you calling a dandy, sir? Why, I should take this knife to you. Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle to you. They're ready to kill each other now. Alright, well, we've got what we need. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the 2 witnesses see 2 different moments of their same crime? Actually, no, because... Absolutely not. Because this guy was already dead and sitting in the chair when he died. It's out of the question. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What's that, you Dark Jinx? Come on, out with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It is out of the question. What? What are you talking about, man? How could you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As a foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what I want to see. I say the 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments on the same crime. You say that's out of the question, show me proof. Well, I can do that. It looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is to present him with something he can't dismiss. Something irrefutable hard evidence. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments of the same crime, as proven by the crime photo itself. There it is. This piece of evidence. Well, Mr. Foreman? Do you know what they say about me, young man? They say I've got no powers of persuasion. Oh, I see. I'm sorry to hear that. But no one will need persuading about this. You're even worse than me. Ah. Well, okay then. 2 different moments. In other words, the victim was stabbed 2 times. Ah, but we have evidence that clearly contradicts that possibility. If you'll allow me to another chance... Okay. Oh, the autopsy report.
Take that!
Okay, present this. I'm an idiot. That's why it is. This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what was written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen. Only once. Yeah, only once. It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means these witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen 2 different times. Sure. Alright, I can see defeat. And we've won. Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning not to not guilty? We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won. Alright, and there's still the... What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate, and the trial must continue. Yay. We did it. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places. And I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. Alright, so... How much longer is this chapter? So, Lord Van Zykes, continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please. And he's pissed. Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hollow chalice, it may seem crash to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zykes. Is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your acquainted Tom no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honor the deathly silence and listen to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence, after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. And he's taking his cape off. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Ooh. Witnesses? I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to. Oh, yes, sir, that I did. Of course I heard it. Oh, yes, sir, I heard it. You, sir, are on the end? The coachman. I believe it's Beppo? Yes, sir, my lord, sir. If it transpires that your previous testimony, you were attempting to veil the presence of a 5th passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir. Oh mio Dio, Now then, witnesses, I hereby call upon you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. Okay. Various misgivings. I only carried for 4 passengers tonight, I swear it. Well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He filled us on the ferry, did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Oh yes, he stabbed him, yes he did. I think so, yes. But that's not really conclusive evidence, is it? Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cousinage. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm territorially guildmaster. The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last run of the day is always a half empty. You have been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo. A disgrace. And your selfish actions have brought dishonor to the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result of it come out differently. No, that's figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely. And time for cross-examination. Alright. Okay, so, it's been a day. I actually, in that time, I realized the episode was kind of running a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be, so I actually skimmed through a walkthrough to see how much more of this there is, and, let's just say we're looking at about another 1 to 2 hours of this, so, hope you like long episodes from me, because that's what we're doing today. In any case, various misgivings. I only carried 4 passengers tonight, I swear, but,
Hold it!
So, there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them to the standard 4 pence fare? Is that right? It's impossible to make the last round of the day pay. I was so cold that all I could do was to stop myself while passing out. I'm getting chilblains just listening to you. I don't know that word. It was just terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for even keeping the bus running. Doesn't the dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night, then we would have had another suspect. Alright, and Van Sykes isn't even remotely concerned with what's going on. I mean, he should. Well, I, for one, was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus.
Hold it!
Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. And I just told you that I did. A flat fare of 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you so desperately needed, it's gone, dead, and buried. I'd have been happy if it had ever existed in the first place. Alright, well, you filled us on the ferry, did, and I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much.
Hold it!
Alright. This blood-curdling sight. You mean the murderer, I'm assuming? Yes, sir. A loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man the moment his life is taken. Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the gent was stabbed. But good gracious. Really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker gent next to me take a breath. See, that's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw that horrible blade poking out of his belly, all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating. Alright. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man every time this thing is said before stands. If you say so. So, you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilded, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him? That's what I said, isn't it? It was bothering me before, this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only the two of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of the fifth passenger, but as of yet, zero evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white. The man's guilty. Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. I wish I could work out what it was. Alright. Oh, yes, he stabbed him. Yeah, he did. I think so, yes? You don't know? Though. So, let's push that. Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh, yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife as in an ice pick grip. I suppose. I might have, you know, yes. Put the cart before the horse, maybe? What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horse when I heard her scream from the seats of the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking up out of a midriff. That's right, yes, and the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes. So, in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all? I really thought I did, but when I could go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I? Ooh, let's pursue this guy. This guy's having a freak out.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? No, you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? No. Because if we're thinking... Okay, so going into the court record again, if we go into this, the victim was found in the chair, dead, like this. So, and if we go into the omnibus again, he couldn't have seen it from there. He couldn't have seen that seat from there because this is where he would have been sitting. He would have seen it from here. How could he have seen it from there? He couldn't have. So I'm gonna go with the idea that he didn't. Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember as clear as a Ballarat day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Alright, thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that, alright. I'll tell you just how grim it was. Alright. Do you think I'd forget to say those blood-soaked hands after the butcher stabbed the man?
Hold it!
Blood-soaked? Ahem, well, perhaps soaked is laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Ooh, and you saw that from the roof, through the skylight? Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. And there was a lamp on inside the carriage as well, so I'm quite sure of what I saw. This banker's latest statement. He's a bit shaky. I feel sure there's something not quite right about it. I know there's not something not quite right about it. When I feel something doesn't add up, Mr. Naruhodo. That's when you should go have a look through the court record. I actually do know what's wrong with his statement. Not long ago, this trial very nearly came to an end. Somehow we've managed to keep our chances alive here. I can't waste this cross-examination. I have to use it to bring some new facts to light. If you're not careful when you press these witnesses, the danger that the jury will end up believing something unhelpful as they did before. Maybe, but we can't let the fear of that happening stop us from uncovering important new information. Yes, you're so right. I need to pay careful attention here. Alright, I don't want to miss even a flicker of reaction among these witnesses. Remember, if you happen to spot one of the witnesses reacting in a strange way, don't hesitate to pursue them to the reason. I already did that, but okay. And I believe... Alright. And I know the blood soaked because there's only the one stain on here. So
Objection.
Blood soaked? Hands? Well, I admit that soaked might be laying on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark color stain there. But, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. And why is he biting his cane? That's a weird nervous tick. Okay. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. Okay. But, no! That can't be right. So you're the liar here, then. Gah. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said, her. It was both hands. Grr. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed. But is that really the truth?
Objection!
And Van Sykes is pissed. It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands. It was only one. But the fact remains, the victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection.
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically said they saw blood all over both hands. Which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Alright. Why? I'm a city banker, for Pete's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. An upstanding member of society don't provocate. He's claiming to have no reason to lie. But is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo? If we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, it could turn the tide in this trial completely. Well, we know one thing. We know he has a among defense list of debtors if Bruce Fairplay would have been due to pay his loan imminently. We know that is a thing. Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie in his testimony. There's evidence. We have evidence. My lord? Yes, counsel? The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Yeah. Alright, very well. I hereby call the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court. The debtor's ledger.
Take that!
Alright, this is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims, crippled by the accused's extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Okay. What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worthy of being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilder were to be found guilty of murder. What will become of your debt in that case? That's a good point. What would become of his debt? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay? Is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw? In a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Gag. Well, that helps. Order, order, order! Mr. Bruce Fairplay! Yes, my lord? Let me ask you again. And be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time in which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Doesn't seem like he can answer. Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on Mr. McGilder's hands. Both of them.
Objection!
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we here have as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir. Absolutely. Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir. On the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just the one. What? That's interesting. It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yes. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at least. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. Alright. What the witnesses really saw. Okay. There's blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains. There can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we all would have seen. Well, lo and behold, in truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. I apologize, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying what we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. Okay. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witness's accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. Very well. Your cross-examination, please, Consul. Yes, my lord. Alright, let's figure the rest of this out. Cross-examination. What the witnesses really saw.
Hold it!
But we've already established this. No, the evidence tells us otherwise. We have the gloves the defendant was wearing on the night in question of the court record. I'm well aware of that, sir, but nevertheless, I know what I saw and I stand by it. The man had blood on both of his hands. He's defiant, even in the face of hard evidence. He's steadfastly refusing to admit that he might be mistaken about what he saw. But why? Your reasoning is dire. One hand or two, the salient point remains unchanged. A minute after the grim crime, the victim's blood dripped guiltily from the accused fingers. Alright, so how do we prove this is indeed a farce? However, I suppose you might say I didn't actually see the exact moment when the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I'm gonna press everything. Don't try to downplay this. Whether or not you saw the exact moment of the crime is a matter of the fundamental importance, as you well know. But for crying out loud, we all know that no one else could have possibly have done it. I was just trying to save us all some time. You have a loan for 20 guineas outstanding with the defendant, do you not? Yeah. Had you hoped to release yourself from that financial burden by ensuring the defendant was found guilty? Well, that's not entirely not what I was hoping for. I just lost a little guinea or 10 when I backed the wrong horse in the Derby, that's all. I was going to win it all back. There's a fixture in this weekend that's a sure thing. So he was gambling and that's why he owes money. A little guinea or 10? I'm a banker. No one bats an eye if I borrow a little spending money for the weekend. That's kind of bad from a banking standpoint. I think you may have revealed rather more about your character than you bargained for, sir. The witness's scruples are not on trial here. Proceed to the next witness. Is that really how it's supposed to work? Alright. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands with blood on them.
Hold it!
Alright. You definitely saw that too. Blood on both hands. Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of Mr. McGilda's gloves has any signs of blood on it. Yes, that's kind of the point we were trying to build to, but apparently it doesn't matter anymore. That's right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, when I looked down and saw Mr. McGilda sitting beside the other fellow, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves, sir. He wasn't wearing these gloves. That's correct, sir. And I saw the blood on both of his bare hands quite clearly. It's true that the dark color stain on the dark leather gloves wouldn't have been easy to see. I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused in the night in question reported that there were no trace of blood on Mr. McGilda's gloved hands. There wasn't blood on his hands? This is puzzling indeed. This must be a significant somehow, I'm sure of it. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard that scream.
Hold it!
Alright, so we need to figure out we need to chase down that lead, then. For the third testimony, it seems. You didn't see anything. Oh, yes, sir, that is to say, no, sir, I didn't. I'm very sorry about what was said before, sir. Very sorry, yes. It was very wrong of me to make up stories and say what I saw him to stab the victim. Wouldn't you agree, sir? If I know what you're insinuating, but I certainly wasn't making up stories. Still, to say you saw nothing right isn't right either, is it? No, sir. I saw nothing at all. Mr. Beppo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London streets, no? I mean, that's a fair point. And nobody's responding to that. Oh, please. You didn't even see that. It was so cold that night, you see. It was all I could do to keep from passing out, sir. Yes, my head was fairly frozen solid, sorry to say. It would seem prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus service of London's cold winter nights. Beppo! Ah. Anyway, the fact remains that there can't have been anyone else inside the carriage we all would have seen.
Hold it!
And everything you saw on the incident was through the skylight of the roof on the omnibus? That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember it was shivering, it was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh, why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked? That's right, and it's a public bus service for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play, says Mr. Fairplay. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured to me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm wind cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down. I was glaring long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Good point. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin through the skylight? Court record? Well, let's look at our... That's not it. Let's look at our model again. There's gotta be something here that we're missing. Okay. Well, does the door indeed lock from the inside? Doesn't look like it should. Doesn't look like it would, but I don't think they would have been able to see everything. They may not have been able to. Because... Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, you were riding on this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight and the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? My golly, really? Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure, but the possibility cannot be denied. That at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
And he's pissed as well. Another hypothetical meandering, Mr. My Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claim. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demands. Alright, you will identify the area of this cross-sectional platform of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting the potential extra passenger could have been situated? Here. Because this entire place is... They could have very well easily seen in here. So they couldn't have seen this side of the bus. They could have easily seen this side and perfectly seen the murder and all that come out here, but there could have easily been somebody hiding over here that nobody could have seen at all. So, present.
Take that!
Both rows of seats on the roof face the direction of the travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin, which passenger on the roof deck can see through the skylight, is as I've drawn here. Ah! That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses could have been completely unaware of it. Yeah.
Objection!
It's a very good point we're bringing up, though. It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. Can you, Mr. Naruhodo? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witness on the roof deck? Well, let's look at the court record. People. Hmm. 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 Well... Well, okay, so interestingly, well, I have a feeling we need to know who had been on another seat. So, I mean, what's interesting is that it was locked. So, I think Mr. Fairplay, since I understand, my lord. I think Mr. Fairplay, since so far he's the only one who has a motive. The defense would like to put forward a name. You're a fool. The response was a desperate attempt by a man who had no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learned. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger on the other seat. Alright, this could be it. This could just be the chance I'm waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. Well, on the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was, well, it couldn't be Baron von Sykes. The victim we know was, the thrice-fired Mason we know was sitting in the seat. Beppo was sitting up top. Lady First was indeed sitting on the... also, I just realized his name is Ladies First. But, that's just puns in general with this series. But, interestingly, the only one with a motive, and the only one not really accounted for, is Mr. Fairplay himself. Since he claims to have... I mean, he was there. So, what's interesting is that it couldn't have been Mr. Magnus McGilded, because obviously he didn't have blood on his hands when he was picked up. So, and we know it couldn't have been thrice-fired Mason since he was the one who was killed, and everybody could clearly see where he was sitting. Beppo was the driver, so he obviously couldn't have done it. And then Lady First was the one who actually informed everybody about what was going on. So, Bruce Fairplay is the only one of these witnesses that doesn't really fit with that. Because we don't really, because he's been a little bit shady the whole time. He's been acting a little strangely the whole time. So I'm gonna present him and hope that actually can be substantiated.
Take that!
Yes, concealed in the blind spot of the cabin that night was none other than this unexpected passenger. Whatever so-called logic you used to arrive at that conclusion, it matters not. Because your answer has made one thing abundantly clear. Oh, well, okay, the real blind spot is inside your head. And it would appear to be unusually large. You could have just said that's not right. Okay, our task here is to defend Mr. McGilded. And we are working on the assumption that he is innocent in this crime. Yes, of course. Why? That must mean, then, that there was someone else inside the omnibus with Mr. McGilded, the true culprit. That's right, exactly what I've been... Oh! Of course. So the two people sitting inside the cabin that the witness saw through the skylight that night, they were the victim and the real culprit. It does seem as though we've all been making a false assumption. The witnesses weren't looking at Mr. McGilded at all. Meaning he has to have been sitting somewhere else. Oh, that's it. Let's not delay, counsel. The defense still has to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be... Okay. Well, then in that case... It has to have been Mr. McGilded, then.
Take that!
The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witness on the roof deck failed to see... has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, counsel? That's the name of the defendant. Alright.
Objection!
Oh, he's gonna cause a fire. If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hollow chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Sykes, how many of these does he have, by the way? Let me explain in terms that even a student of the artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the blood scene unfolded, the victim and the assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses had attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built.
Objection!
But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Yeah. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Yeah, we've cleaned that up. Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the glory remains.
Objection!
The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. Exactly. They both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. There was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And who is this third party? Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary! Okay, so now we have a bit of a lead to chase down. Order, order, order! What exactly are you postulating?
Objection!
The defense's postulation is just that. Nothing more than conjecture. The witness has clearly stated that they saw the accused.
Objection!
But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I couldn't see the rest of them, though. I mean, yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. And what particular style of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hatter? Alright. The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. McGilded, would be undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Unless, that is, you are proposing an even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed to even notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled. Well, he was asleep, or at least according to himself. Ah. He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it. Order! There's clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out that the man has been withholding information, you can be sure that it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord? Should you ask Mr. McGilded to testify or not? I think he should testify, since obviously he was a witness himself, if not the murderer. So he has to have seen something. I mean, he claims he was asleep the whole time, but we'll have to see. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand. In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Ah, yes, sir. I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony. When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild. Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say? Oh yes, that would be lovely. Yes, the jury seems that the man says the man must be heard. Very well. The court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once. And now we get to show off what's happening here. All right. Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear. Presumably. I have no idea. Hopefully. Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure I have, my lord. There are now two matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin, as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police? Begad, no, 'tis not my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please. Alright. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell you all or keep me mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? The fine fellow representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true? Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. You... What? Well, that doesn't help it. That doesn't really help us, does it? No, Magnus McGilded. That's a convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Van Sykes. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nothing about when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. Which was... Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and not in any way involved, you see. What? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this here courtroom, just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord. So, he claims there's a child? And who was this young child whom you spoke? That? I don't know. You don't know? Aye, well, the wee ting just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since.
Objection!
We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings. What? Ah, smoke! Ah, fire! There's a fire! Look, someone's trying to get away. Cough. After them! It's no use. Cough, cough. I can't see anything through all this smoke. What is going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. That's interesting. We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff. Amidst the scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew was that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. Okay, and that's the end. I think I'm gonna leave it here. I think I'm gonna leave it here. Yeah, we're gonna leave it here. So, yeah. That was a lot longer than I was expecting it to be. That took nearly 3 hours to do. That took nearly 3 hours. Oh boy, that was a lot longer than I was expecting. But in any case, so that was an interesting trial. So From that, we can conclude that the defendant saw somebody. Apparently, it was like a child or something, but apparently there was indeed a fifth passenger inside the omnibus at the time, and Mr. McGilded may or may not have helped them escape. Apparently there was a murder and nobody really knew anything about that. So, I don't know. That's interesting, and I am looking forward to exploring that for next time. But for right now, I think I'm going to leave this episode here. So, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. Be sure to check out my Patreon if you want to help support me. It's only a couple bucks a month. It does really help me out, so be sure to go check that down. Link is in the description. And also, if you want to see more content from me, then there's two ways you can actually do that. One is by checking out the link to my Twitch down in the description below. I stream every Sunday, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, so if you want to see that, by all means, go ahead. Link is down in the description for that. And you can also check out the videos linked in the end screen if you want to see more content from me that way. The top video is the most recent one, and the bottom one is based on what you've already seen from me. So, if you want to try something new or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both of those videos out. But, regardless of whether or not you do enter all those things, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!